The morning sun rose over the small coastal town, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Fishermen were already preparing their boats, and children ran along the docks, laughing and playing. Life seemed ordinary, almost peaceful. But far beneath the ocean's surface, a shadow stirred, unnoticed by anyone above. Alex, a young marine researcher, was on his small research boat, checking the sonar equipment. He had been studying ocean currents and marine life, but lately, the readings were strange. Faint signals appeared in a pattern no one could understand. At first he thought it was a malfunction. But when the signals repeated, always at the same time every morning, a chill ran down his spine. Something was down there, something alive, or at least moving in a way no one expected. Alex called his team to the boat. There was Maya, his colleague, who was brave and curious. Liam, a quiet technician with sharp eyes. And old Captain Harris, who had spent his whole life on the sea and believed in nothing he could not see. "These readings are unusual," Alex said, showing the sonar screen. "It's like a fleet of ships under the ocean, and not ordinary ships." The team exchanged nervous glances. They had studied shipwrecks and submarines, but nothing like this had ever been recorded. That night, while Alex stayed on the boat to monitor the signals, the ocean seemed to whisper around him. The water was calm, yet something deep below moved with purpose. Shadows passed under the boat, and strange mechanical noises echoed faintly through the hull. Alex's heart raced, but he felt a strange pull, like the ocean itself was calling him. He knew he had to see it with his own eyes. The next morning, the team prepared for a dive. They loaded the small submersible onto the boat, checked oxygen tanks, and double-checked all equipment. The tension was high, but excitement and fear mingled in equal parts. As they descended into the deep blue, the sunlight slowly disappeared, leaving only the soft glow of their submersible lights. At first, there was nothing but water stretching endlessly. Then, in the distance, shapes began to appear. Massive shapes, lined in formation, stretching as far as the eye could see. The fleet was enormous. Some ships looked old, with rusted hulls and coral growing on them. Others were strange, with smooth surfaces and lights that seemed alive, pulsing softly in the dark water. The team was stunned. These ships were not just abandoned, they were waiting. And the longer Alex looked, the more he felt that they were aware of him, watching silently, their presence heavy and commanding. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the water. The submersible rocked violently as a massive shadow passed beneath them. Liam shouted, "What was that?" Maya held tightly to the controls, her knuckles white. Alex stared through the window, barely breathing. He could see massive mechanical arms on some of the ships, moving slowly, almost like the fleet was breathing. He realized then that this was not just a collection of old warships. This was something else entirely, something that had been hidden for centuries, and now it was awake. A cold fear ran through the team. Captain Harris muttered under his breath, "I've seen storms and battles, but this is different." Alex's mind raced. Could it be an ancient war fleet lost to history or something built by someone unknown? He didn't have time to think. The sonar picked up more movement. The fleet was not staying in place. Ships began to rise slightly, their outlines becoming clearer, more threatening. The water trembled as if the ocean itself was preparing for a fight. Suddenly, a flash of light illuminated the entire area. A signal, like a flare, shot up from one of the massive ships. It was not meant for them. It was a warning, a call to action. Alex realized the unimaginable truth. They had stumbled upon a hidden power, and that power was ready to defend itself. The fleet had been waiting beneath the oceans for a reason, and their intrusion had triggered something ancient and dangerous. The submersible shook again, more violently this time. Alex knew they could not stay down here much longer. With trembling hands, he guided the vessel upward, glancing back at the looming silhouettes of the fleet. Every second they rose, the shapes followed, moving as if synchronized, like a single living entity. Back on the surface, the team gasped at the sight beneath them. The ocean seemed alive, dark shadows gliding just beneath the waves. As they sailed back toward the shore, the team remained silent. No one knew exactly what they had seen, and no one spoke of the fleet's purpose. But one thing was certain. The world above the waves was no longer safe from what slept beneath. The hidden fleet had awakened, and the first battle of a war no one had expected was about to begin. Alex stared at the horizon, his mind full of questions and fear. This was only the beginning. The night was calm over the small coastal village. The sea reflected the silver glow of the moon, and the gentle waves lapped quietly against the wooden docks. Fishermen were preparing to return from their evening trips, their boats creaking as they cut through the water. Among them was an old fisherman named Karim, who had spent his entire life on these waters. As he guided his small boat across the calm sea, something strange caught his eye. Far below the surface, flickering lights moved in a strange rhythmic pattern. At first he thought it was a reflection from the moon, but the lights were too steady, too purposeful. He leaned over the side of the boat, squinting into the dark water, and heard something even stranger, a faint mechanical hum coming from the depths. The sound was low and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, echoing through the water in a way that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Karim's heart raced, but he could not look away. Meanwhile, miles away in a small research station, Alex, a young marine researcher, was monitoring sonar readings. He had always loved the ocean, spending long days studying currents, marine life, and underwater formations. But tonight his equipment picked up signals unlike anything he had ever seen. Tiny blips appeared in a precise pattern, moving in a way that suggested intelligence, not random movement. Alex rubbed his eyes and adjusted the settings, thinking it might be a glitch. But the signals kept appearing, repeating every few minutes. A strange mixture of excitement and fear stirred within him. He had discovered many oddities in the ocean before, but something about these signals felt different, as if the deep sea itself was trying to communicate. Alex called his assistant Maya to the control room. "Look at this," he said, pointing at the screen. "These aren't normal patterns. They move like ships. But there's something more, something old, something hidden." Maya leaned closer, her eyes widening as she studied the moving dots on the sonar. "Could it be an old fleet? Sunken ships, or something else?" she whispered. Alex shook his head. "I don't know yet, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." He grabbed his gear, preparing for a dive. There was a mix of curiosity and unease in his heart. The ocean was calling him, but he did not know what awaited beneath its waves. Back on the fishing boat, Karim kept his eyes on the strange lights. The mechanical hum grew louder, resonating through the water. He noticed shadows moving with the lights, massive shapes sliding silently beneath the waves. His hands trembled as he tried to steer the boat away, but a strange fascination rooted him in place. Whatever was down there was old, powerful, and aware of his presence. He had heard stories of ghost ships and lost fleets, but nothing like this had ever felt real until now. Alex and Maya prepared their small submersible, checking oxygen levels, cameras, and all necessary equipment. As they descended into the dark water, sunlight faded, leaving only the faint glow of their instruments. The ocean grew colder and more silent with every meter they sank. Then, as if appearing from nowhere, strange shapes emerged in the dim light. Massive silhouettes moved gracefully, lined up like an invisible armada resting on the ocean floor. Some looked like ancient warships, their hulls covered in coral and seaweed. Others had smooth metallic surfaces, with faint glimmers of light shining from places that should not have had illumination. Alex's heart pounded as he maneuvered closer. The sonar signal seemed to grow stronger, vibrating through the submersible. He tried to make sense of it. Who had built these ships and why were they here? Maya glanced nervously at the glowing outlines. "Alex, do you feel that?" "It's like they're alive," she whispered. He nodded, swallowing hard. Fear mixed with awe as he stared at the massive fleet. There was a strange intelligence in the way the ships moved. It was as if they were aware, watching, waiting. Suddenly, a shadow moved beneath the submersible. A massive form passed silently under them, so close that the water seemed to ripple in a wave of cold energy. Alex froze. His mind raced. Was it a ship, or something else entirely? The sonar blipped furiously, the signals moving faster and faster as if reacting to their presence. Maya held the controls tightly, barely daring to breathe. Every second stretched, heavy with anticipation, as the dark shape lingered and then disappeared into the depths. Alex knew one thing for certain. The ocean was hiding secrets older and bigger than anything he had imagined. The signals were not random, the shadows were not natural, and the fleet, whatever it was alive in its own mysterious way. As they slowly ascended toward the surface, the image of the moving shapes burned into Alex's mind. The night seemed darker now, the sea quieter, and every wave carried a weight of untold stories. He understood that this was only the beginning. Something ancient was stirring beneath the waves, and its secrets would not remain hidden forever. Back on the surface, Kareem's boat rocked gently in the calm sea. He stared at the horizon, the lights beneath the water fading slowly, leaving only silence. He did not speak, but the fear and wonder in his eyes told a story that words could not capture. Somewhere deep below, the hidden fleet waited, watching, patient and alive. And Alex, miles away, felt the pull of the ocean's secret calling him back, knowing that soon he would uncover the truth and face the dangers that came with it. The morning sun barely pierced through the mist as Alex and Maya prepared their submersible again. Sleep had come in short, uneasy bursts the night before, filled with dreams of moving shadows and glowing lights beneath the waves. The signals had returned, stronger than ever, pulsing through the sonar like a heartbeat. Alex studied the readings carefully. "It's calling us," he said softly, almost to himself. Maya looked at him with a mix of fear and excitement. "Or warning us," she replied. But neither of them could resist. The pull of the ocean was too strong, too mysterious to ignore. As they descended once more into the deep blue, the water grew colder with each meter. The sunlight disappeared completely, leaving only the soft glow of the submersible's lights to guide them. Silence surrounded them, broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional creak of the vessel under pressure. Every shadow in the water seemed alive, shifting just beyond the edges of the light. Alex's heart raced. He had seen the fleet before, but now he felt its presence more strongly. It was as if the ocean itself were aware of them, waiting to see what they would do next. Then, in the distance, the shapes began to appear again. The fleet was larger than they had imagined, stretching far into the darkness. Some ships were covered in coral, others smooth and metallic, glowing faintly as though powered by some hidden energy. The team's cameras captured every detail, but even the screens could not show the full scale of what lay beneath them. The submersible hovered in silence as the fleet seemed to watch them. Every movement of the water felt deliberate, every shadow purposeful. Suddenly, a loud vibration ran through the vessel. Alex grabbed the controls tightly as the submersible rocked violently. A massive shape passed beneath them, its size dwarfing the entire craft. Maya gasped. "It's moving," she whispered. Alex nodded, heart pounding. The fleet was not just resting on the ocean floor. It was alive in some way, aware of their presence, and possibly aware of them personally. Fear and fascination battled in Alex's mind. He had studied the ocean for years, but nothing could have prepared him for this. As they moved closer, strange mechanical sounds echoed faintly through the water. The hum of engines, the scrape of metal against metal, and the soft, almost musical vibrations made the submersible shiver. Alex adjusted the sonar and cameras, trying to track the source. Something or someone was signaling them. The blips on the screen formed patterns, repeating and moving in ways that suggested intelligence. Alex's curiosity grew stronger, but so did his fear. What if they had stumbled into something dangerous, something that had been hidden for centuries for a reason? A sudden movement caught Alex's eye. One of the larger ships had tilted slightly, its outline glowing faintly in the submersible's lights. It seemed to lean toward them, as if inspecting the small human vessel that had dared to enter its domain. Maya's hands shook as she adjusted the camera, capturing the moment. "Do you think it's alive?" she whispered. Alex swallowed hard. He did not have an answer. It felt alive. It moved with purpose. It waited. Then, without warning, a bright flash of light erupted from one of the distant ships. The ocean around them lit up briefly, revealing dozens of ships lined in perfect formation. Shadows stretched and twisted as if the water itself were moving. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary fleet. These ships had been hidden for a reason, and their awakening now meant that something long forgotten was about to change. The signals on the sonar became faster, almost frantic. The fleet seemed to be reacting to their presence, aware that humans had come too close. Panic threatened to rise, but Alex forced himself to stay calm. "We need to record everything, but stay careful," he said. Maya nodded, gripping the controls. The submersible hovered as the shadows moved around them, giant forms brushing past silently, creating waves that rocked the vessel. Alex realized that the fleet was testing them, perhaps trying to communicate, perhaps warning them away. Every second in that dark, silent world felt like an eternity. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Finally, Alex decided it was time to return to the surface. Slowly, carefully, he guided the submersible upward. As they rose, the fleet remained below, shadows retreating slightly but still present. The ocean seemed to exhale, releasing them from its deep grasp, but the tension did not leave Alex's body. When they broke the surface, the sun had begun to rise, casting golden light over the calm sea. The submersible floated gently, but the memory of what they had seen remained vivid. Back on the research station, Alex and Maya reviewed the footage. Every frame revealed details more incredible than the last. Ancient ships, glowing lights, massive shadows, all moving with precision and awareness. Alex rubbed his eyes and leaned back in his chair. "We can't tell anyone yet," he said. "No one would believe it, but this is the beginning of something bigger, something dangerous." Maya nodded silently, feeling the same mix of awe and fear. As night fell once again, Alex stared at the dark waters beyond the station. Somewhere deep below, the hidden fleet waited. They had seen him. They had felt the intrusion. And somewhere in the vast darkness of the ocean, the fleet was alive and awake, ready for what was coming next. Alex knew that the next dive would reveal more than just ships. It would reveal secrets older than anyone could imagine. And the ocean, with all its silent power, had only just begun to show its face. The sun had barely risen when Alex and Maya prepared for another dive. Sleep had been restless for both of them. Visions of glowing shapes and moving shadows haunted their minds. Every time Alex closed his eyes, he saw the fleet, silent but alive, waiting deep beneath the waves. Today, he told himself, they would get closer. They had to understand what they had discovered before it became too late. The submersible slipped into the water, descending into the dark blue depths. The ocean grew colder with every meter, swallowing the light from above. Alex adjusted the controls carefully, checking the sonar for the faint signals that had guided them so far. Maya's eyes were fixed on the screens, tracking the shadows and glimmers that hinted at the fleet's presence. The silence around them was heavier than ever, broken only by the faint hum of the submersible. Each passing second made them feel smaller, more fragile, and entirely at the mercy of the deep. Then, as they reached a depth where sunlight could no longer penetrate, the shapes of the fleet appeared again. It was even larger than before, stretching far into the darkness like an underwater city of ships. Some looked ancient, covered in coral and seaweed, while others had smooth, metallic surfaces, glowing faintly as if powered by an unknown energy. The submersible moved carefully among them, recording every detail. Alex couldn't take his eyes off the largest ship, which seemed almost alive, its hull glinting faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. As they moved closer, the sonar signals grew stronger. They were no longer random blips. They formed a pattern, repeating over and over. Alex's mind raced. Could the fleet be trying to communicate? Was it aware of them in a way that went beyond simple movement? Every shadow, every glimmer, every faint mechanical hum seemed deliberate. It was as if the ocean itself was speaking, and only they had the chance to listen. Suddenly, a flash of light shot across the darkness. It came from a ship farther ahead, illuminating the surrounding water. The submersible rocked as the currents shifted violently. Maya gripped the controls tightly. "Alex, something's moving," she whispered, fear evident in her voice. He nodded, swallowing hard. A massive shadow passed beneath the vessel, brushing past so close that the water seemed to ripple with power. Alex realized that the fleet was not passive. It was aware, and it was testing them. The submersible's cameras captured glimpses of carvings and strange symbols along the sides of the ships. Alex leaned closer, trying to make sense of them. They looked like a language, ancient and complex, yet strangely familiar. "It's like they're trying to tell us something," he said, his voice barely audible over the hum of the engines. Maya studied the images, her brow furrowed. "Or maybe warning us," she replied. But the thought of turning back never crossed Alex's mind. They had come too far, and the mystery of the fleet had captured their hearts. Suddenly, a massive shadow moved beneath them. The submersible rocked violently, sending Alex and Maya bracing against the controls. They looked up through the viewport and saw a ship far larger than any they had encountered before. Its hull glowed with a soft, pulsating light, and strange markings covered its surface. Alex leaned closer. The symbols seemed to tell a story: ancient battles, lost civilizations, and warnings about humans who had come too close before. Maya shivered. "It's showing us history," she whispered. Alex nodded, his mind racing. They were witnessing something that no human had ever seen before, a living record of the ocean's secrets. Hours passed as they navigated through the fleet. Some ships shifted position as if acknowledging their presence. Others emitted flashes of light, forming patterns that Alex tried to decipher. The deeper they went, the more he realized that this fleet was not a weapon. It was a guardian, waiting for a moment in history to reveal itself. And somehow it had sensed them, choosing to show them its secrets. Then a sudden movement startled them. A smaller ship rose slightly from the ocean floor, tilting as if observing them. The submersible shook under the water pressure, and Alex held the controls steady. The ship's glow brightened, and a hum resonated through the water, vibrating against the hull. Alex felt a shiver run through his body. The fleet was aware of them, not just as intruders, but as observers, as participants in something much larger than themselves. Maya pointed at the sonar. "Look, the signals, they're forming shapes like directions or a map," she said. Alex studied the screen, his pulse quickening. It was true. The fleet was guiding them, showing them a path deeper into the ocean. Part of him wanted to turn back, to retreat to the safety of the surface. But the curiosity, the need to understand, pushed him forward. They followed the path, recording every moment, feeling the weight of history pressing down on them with every pulse of light. As they reached the end of the glowing path, they hovered over a massive ship, the largest they had yet seen. Its hull glowed brighter than the others, and the markings seemed almost alive, shifting in the glow of the submersible's lights. Alex studied the symbols closely, realizing they told a story of battles fought and sacrifices made centuries ago. Somewhere in the patterns he sensed a warning, a message meant for anyone who dared to come too close. Suddenly the ship emitted a flash of light so bright it lit the entire area. Shadows danced around them, and the smaller ships seemed to align in formation. The submersible rocked under the pressure of the currents, and Alex and Maya felt a mix of fear and awe. The fleet was not just alive, it was intelligent, coordinated, and aware. It had waited for centuries beneath the ocean, and now it had chosen to reveal itself to them. Finally, Alex decided it was time to ascend. Slowly, carefully, he guided the submersible upward, leaving the fleet behind. The shadows receded, but the feeling of being watched never left him. Back on the surface, the sun was beginning to rise, casting golden light over the calm waters. Alex and Maya sat in silence, their minds racing. They had seen more than they could explain. The fleet was alive, intelligent, and waiting for something, and they had been chosen, somehow, to witness it. That night, Alex stood at the edge of the dock, staring into the dark water. Somewhere below, the hidden fleet rested again, silent but aware, watching the humans who had entered its world. The ocean had revealed part of its secrets, but much remained hidden, waiting to be discovered. Alex knew one thing: the next dive would bring answers and danger. The fleet was alive, and it had plans that humans could barely imagine. The ocean seemed darker than usual that morning, as if it were warning Alex and Maya to stay away. But neither could ignore the pull of the fleet beneath the waves. After a restless night of planning and speculation, they prepared the submersible for another dive. The hum of the engines was the only sound in the quiet station as Alex double-checked the equipment. "We need to stay alert," he said, his voice low. "The fleet is no longer just showing us itself. It's testing us, and we don't know what it's capable of." Maya nodded, gripping the controls, her eyes reflecting both fear and determination. As the submersible sank into the dark water, the temperature dropped sharply. The familiar shadows of the fleet appeared, larger and more imposing than ever. The smaller ships moved in formation around the massive vessels, creating an underwater labyrinth. Every flicker of light seemed purposeful, every hum precise. Alex adjusted the sonar, but the signals were now faster, more intense. The fleet was reacting to them, and not in a friendly way. Suddenly, the submersible shook violently. A massive shadow passed beneath, sending a strong current that rocked the small craft. Maya gripped the controls tightly, struggling to maintain stability. "It's huge," she whispered, her voice trembling. Alex's heart raced. The fleet had begun to move more aggressively, almost like predators circling their prey. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, but curiosity and the need to understand kept him focused. Then came the first sign of betrayal. Liam, one of the station's technicians who had secretly followed their progress, appeared on the communication screen. His voice was urgent but strained. "Alex, you don't understand what you're dealing with. You have to leave it alone." Alex frowned. Liam had never shown fear before. His sudden panic only confirmed what Alex had suspected. The fleet was dangerous, far beyond anything they had imagined. But the warning also made Alex more determined. They had to learn its secrets before anyone else stumbled blindly into it. As they moved deeper into the fleet, strange mechanical noises echoed through the water. The submersible trembled as currents swirled around them. Alex's eyes widened as he saw one of the largest ships tilt slightly, almost deliberately, casting massive shadows across the surrounding water. The glowing symbols along its hull seemed to change, forming patterns that hinted at messages or warnings. Maya tried to decipher them, but the speed and complexity were overwhelming. "It's trying to tell us something," she said, voice barely audible. Alex nodded. "Or testing us," he replied. Suddenly, a smaller ship surged forward, its lights blinding for a moment. The submersible rocked violently as the currents intensified. Alex struggled to maintain control, feeling the craft pulled in different directions by forces he could not see. The fleet was no longer passive. It was active, aware, and clearly asserting its power. Fear tightened in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic could be fatal at this depth. Then the worst happened. A sudden ocean quake shook the area, throwing the submersible off balance. Rocks and debris fell from the ocean floor, creating a wall of shifting obstacles. Alex shouted, adjusting the thrusters while Maya tried to stabilize their descent. The currents were stronger than anything they had experienced. They were trapped in a dangerous zone, surrounded by massive ships that seemed almost alive. Every moment stretched, heavy with tension, as the fleet moved around them in synchronized, deliberate motion. Through the chaos, Alex noticed something startling. One of the massive ships, glowing faintly with light, seemed to move closer to the submersible, its hull tilting slightly as if examining them. The smaller ships formed a protective perimeter around it, creating a pattern that suggested intelligence and strategy. Alex realized they were not alone in this struggle. The fleet was coordinating its movements, actively engaging with them. The ocean's silence was gone, replaced by the hum and vibrations of mechanical life responding to every action of the intruders. After what felt like hours, Alex managed to guide the submersible toward the surface. The currents remained strong, but careful maneuvering and the fleet's slowing movements gave them a narrow window. As they ascended, shadows receded slowly, and the glow of the fleet dimmed behind them. When they finally broke the surface, the calm waters above seemed almost normal, but the weight of what they had encountered remained. Back on the station, Alex and Maya sat in silence, exhausted and shaken. Liam appeared again on the screen, guilt and fear in his eyes. "I tried to warn you," he said quietly. Alex sighed. "I know, but now we've seen it. We can't ignore what's down there." Maya looked at the ocean, waves glinting in the morning light. "It's alive," she whispered. "It's aware, and it's dangerous." That night, Alex walked along the docks, staring into the dark water. Somewhere below, the hidden fleet rested again, silent but alive, its intelligence and power beyond human comprehension. It had tested them, warned them, and yet, in some strange way, allowed them to survive. The ocean had grown darker, deeper, and more mysterious. Alex knew that the next encounter would reveal even greater secrets, and perhaps even greater danger. The hidden fleet was no longer just a mystery. It was a force that demanded respect, and its awakening had only just begun. The morning was quiet, almost eerily so. Alex and Maya barely slept, haunted by the fleet's movements and the strange events of the previous dive. Every sonar signal they had recorded seemed alive, pulsing with a rhythm that hinted at intelligence. Alex knew the fleet was more than just a collection of sunken ships. It was aware, thinking, and perhaps even judging them. Today they had to understand it. Hours passed as they moved slowly through the armada, recording every ship, every symbol, every pulse of light. The deeper they went, the more they realized that this fleet had been hidden for centuries, waiting for something, or someone. Alex's excitement mingled with fear. These ships were not just machines. They were alive in a way humans could barely understand, and the more they observed, the more he felt the weight of history pressing down upon them. Then, something completely unexpected happened. One of the ships moved. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it shifted its position, its lights brightening as it seemed to acknowledge their presence. Alex froze, heart racing. Maya's voice trembled. "It knows we're here," she whispered. The submersible hovered in silence, both of them holding their breath. The ship emitted a low hum, different from the mechanical sounds they had heard before. It resonated through the water, vibrating in a way that felt alive, almost intelligent. Alex realized that the fleet was not simply hidden. It was guarding something. Perhaps it had been waiting for centuries to protect a secret. Or maybe it was waiting for a moment in history when humanity would be ready to see it. The thought sent chills down his spine. Every instinct in his body told him to leave, to retreat to the safety of the surface. But the curiosity, the need to understand, was stronger than fear. As they prepared to ascend, a massive shadow moved across the submersible. Alex glanced through the viewport and saw the outline of a ship far larger than any they had encountered. Its presence was commanding, almost regal. The light from its hull pulsed gently as if breathing, and the entire fleet seemed to shift slightly in unison, acknowledging the new arrival, the humans. Alex's hands shook, but he held the controls steady. The submersible began its slow climb back to the surface, leaving the shadows and secrets below. Back on the research station, Alex and Maya reviewed the footage in stunned silence. Every frame revealed more questions than answers. Ancient ships, glowing symbols, a fleet that moved as one. It was beyond anything they had imagined. Alex leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "We've only seen the beginning," he said. Maya nodded, her face pale but determined. "And it's waiting for us to understand it." That night, as the waves lapped quietly against the shore, Alex stood at the edge of the dock, staring into the dark water. Somewhere below, the hidden fleet rested again, silent but alive, aware that humans had entered its world. And somewhere in the depths, secrets older than time itself waited, ready to reveal themselves to those brave enough to face them. The ocean had spoken, and Alex knew that the next dive would uncover even greater mysteries and dangers. The morning fog clung to the docks as Alex and Maya prepared for another dive. Both were tired from the previous trips, yet neither could ignore the pull of the ocean. Every signal, every shadow from the fleet haunted their thoughts. Alex checked the submersible carefully, double-checking oxygen levels, cameras, and sensors. "We have to be careful today," he said quietly. "The fleet is no longer just resting. It's aware of us." Maya nodded, gripping the controls tightly. She could feel the tension in the air, a mix of fear and excitement. As the submersible slipped beneath the waves, the water grew darker and colder. Sunlight faded quickly, leaving only the soft glow of their lights to guide them. The ocean around them was eerily silent, the calm broken only by the low hum of the vessel. Shadows flickered along the edges of the light, moving in ways that seemed deliberate. Alex swallowed hard. The fleet was no longer just a collection of shapes on the sonar. It was alive, intelligent, and waiting. Then, in the distance, the familiar outlines of the ships appeared. But this time something was different. One of the larger ships had shifted closer to them, almost as if it were following the submersible. Its glowing lights pulsed slowly, rhythmically, sending waves of energy through the water. Alex's heart pounded. He had never seen anything like this. The fleet was reacting to them, moving in unison, as though testing their intentions. Suddenly, the sonar picked up rapid movement beneath the submersible. A massive shadow passed underneath, creating a strong current that rocked the vessel violently. Maya held the controls tightly, her knuckles white. "Alex, it's huge," she whispered. Alex could barely speak, his mind racing. The shadow moved gracefully, almost alive, like a creature more than a ship. It passed silently, leaving a feeling of awe and fear in its wake. As they moved closer to the fleet, strange symbols on the ships glowed faintly. Alex adjusted the cameras, trying to capture them clearly. The markings seemed ancient, but the pattern suggested intelligence, like a language waiting to be understood. "These ships, they're communicating," Alex said quietly. Maya leaned closer to the monitor, studying the lights. "Or warning us," she replied. Every pulse and glow felt deliberate, like the fleet was alive and aware of their intrusion. Hours passed as they navigated among the massive shapes. The deeper they went, the more the fleet revealed itself. Some ships appeared old and weathered, covered in coral and rust. Others had smooth metallic surfaces, their faint glow hinting at unknown technology. The fleet was enormous, stretching farther than their lights could reach. Alex realized that it had been hidden for centuries, waiting beneath the waves for a reason no human could yet understand. Suddenly, a loud rumble echoed through the water. One of the ships moved, tilting its massive hull toward them. The submersible shook violently as strong currents swirled around it. Alex gritted his teeth, holding the controls steady. Maya's voice trembled. "It's testing us. Or warning us. I don't know which." Alex could feel the fleet's presence pressing against him, like a living force beneath the water. He knew they had crossed a boundary that few humans had ever reached. Then, without warning, a faint glow appeared from the depths, forming a path of light that led deeper into the ocean. Alex glanced at Maya. "It's showing us something," he said. Her eyes widened. "Or leading us into danger," she replied softly. Despite their fear, curiosity pushed them forward. Slowly, carefully, they followed the glowing path, recording every moment. The ocean around them seemed alive, the shadows moving in response to their every turn. As they reached the end of the path, the submersible floated over a massive ship, far larger than any they had seen. Its hull glowed with a soft, pulsating light, and the markings along its sides seemed to tell a story. Alex leaned closer, studying the symbols. They spoke of battles long ago, of fleets that had risen and vanished beneath the waves. And somewhere in the patterns, he could sense a warning, an unspoken message from the fleet itself. A sudden movement startled them. Smaller ships rose slightly as if in formation, surrounding the enormous vessel. The submersible rocked under the pressure of the currents created by their movement. Alex and Maya exchanged fearful glances. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a fleet alive in a way that humans could barely comprehend. Every action, every pulse of light felt intentional, as if the ocean itself were testing their courage and intentions. Finally, Alex decided to ascend. Slowly, carefully, he guided the submersible upward, leaving the massive fleet behind. The shadows receded, but the feeling of being watched never left him. Back on the surface, the morning sun broke through the mist, casting golden light over the calm waters. Alex and Maya sat in silence, their minds racing with questions. They had seen more than they could explain, and the fleet had clearly noticed them. That night, as waves lapped quietly against the shore, Alex stood at the edge of the dock, staring at the dark water. Somewhere below, the fleet rested again, silent but alive, aware that humans had entered its world. And somewhere in the depths, secrets older than time itself waited, ready to reveal themselves to those brave or foolish enough to face them. Alex knew one thing for certain: the ocean had changed. The fleet was no longer just hidden. It had awakened, and the next encounter would be even more dangerous. The next morning, Alex could hardly sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the fleet beneath the waves, glowing and moving as if alive. The sonar signals were still pulsing, stronger than ever, calling him back. Maya arrived at the research station, her face pale but determined. "We have to go again," she said quietly. Alex nodded. He knew the fleet was no longer just hiding. It was aware of them, and today they would discover more than they could have imagined. The submersible slipped into the dark water, descending into the cold depths. Sunlight disappeared quickly, leaving only the soft glow of their lights. Shadows flickered along the edges, moving with purpose. Alex's hands gripped the controls tightly, and Maya's eyes never left the monitors. The silence of the deep was thick, almost alive, as if the ocean itself were holding its breath. Every movement felt deliberate, every flicker of light meaningful. As they reached the fleet, they noticed something new. The ships were no longer stationary. They moved slowly, almost gracefully, as if patrolling an invisible boundary. Some of the glowing lights pulsed rhythmically, and faint mechanical hums echoed through the water. Alex adjusted the sonar to focus on the signals. The patterns were no longer random. They formed sequences, repeating in ways that suggested intelligence. His heart raced. The fleet was not just alive. It was thinking. They descended into the deep water once more, the submersible moving carefully through the cold darkness. The ocean seemed heavier than ever, and shadows flickered along the edges of their lights. The fleet was waiting. As they approached the familiar outlines of the ships, Alex noticed a new pattern forming. The glowing symbols on the hulls seemed to shift, almost like letters forming a message. Maya leaned closer to the monitor, studying the patterns. "Alex, it's trying to communicate," she whispered. His pulse quickened. They were no longer just observers. The fleet had chosen to reveal something. Suddenly, a massive ship moved gracefully toward them, its lights brightening. The smaller ships formed a protective circle around it, moving in perfect synchronization. Alex realized the fleet was organized, intelligent, and deliberate. Each movement carried meaning. The signals on the sonar were no longer random blips. They formed sequences pointing toward a location deeper in the ocean. Alex and Maya exchanged a tense glance. The fleet was guiding them, showing them something. As they followed the path, the submersible floated over a massive ship, unlike any they had seen before. Its hull pulsed with soft golden light, and the markings seemed alive, shifting as they watched. Alex felt a strange emotion, a mix of awe, fear, and wonder. The fleet was not hostile, not entirely. It had chosen to reveal itself in a controlled way, testing them, allowing them to witness its secrets. And then Alex understood. This was history preserved, knowledge waiting to be discovered. Suddenly, images flashed through the submersible's lights. Alex blinked in disbelief. Shadows formed into shapes, battleships firing, sailors on deck, storms raging at sea. It was as if the fleet was showing them memories, scenes from centuries ago. Maya gasped. "It's alive. It remembers," she said. Alex nodded. The fleet was a living archive of history, carrying the memory of humans who had vanished long ago. And somehow it had waited for the right moment to share its story. Then the most startling revelation came. A sequence of lights formed a symbol Alex had seen in old historical texts, an emblem associated with a lost fleet thought to have disappeared forever. The sonar signals aligned, creating a pattern that pointed toward a deeper area of the ocean. Alex realized that the fleet had a purpose. It was waiting for someone to understand, to witness its existence, and perhaps to learn from it. Fear and awe gripped him at the same time. As they hovered over the glowing symbols, a smaller ship moved closer, almost as if inviting them nearer. Alex hesitated, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on him. The fleet had lived in silence, guarding its secrets, waiting for those capable of understanding. Now it had chosen them. Every pulse of light, every hum, every movement carried meaning. It was alive, aware, and filled with the memories of history itself. Hours passed as they studied the fleet. Alex and Maya recorded everything, careful not to disturb the formations. They saw ships that had fought long-forgotten wars, ships that had sunk beneath storms, and ships that had survived centuries of ocean pressure, all preserved and remembered by the fleet itself. The deeper they went, the more Alex realized that this was not just a fleet, it was a library, a guardian of history, a silent witness to humanity's past. As they prepared to ascend, the fleet moved in a subtle but deliberate formation. The lights pulsed rhythmically, almost like a farewell or a promise. Alex understood that the fleet had shared what it wanted to, but much remained hidden. The ocean below was alive with memory and mystery, and they had been allowed a glimpse. As they rose toward the surface, shadows slowly receded, leaving only the faint glow of distant ships. Back on the surface, the sun broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the calm sea. Alex and Maya sat in silence, their minds racing with the revelations they had witnessed. The fleet was not merely a force of power or destruction, it was a guardian, a preserver of history, and somehow it had chosen to trust them. Alex stared at the water, knowing that this encounter had changed everything. The hidden fleet had awakened, revealed its purpose, and now humanity had a chance to learn its secrets. That night, Alex walked along the docks, looking into the dark water. Somewhere below, the fleet rested, silent but alive, aware of the humans who had witnessed its story. The ocean had shown them part of its memory, but many secrets remained. Alex knew that the next encounter would reveal more, perhaps answers to questions they did not yet know to ask. The fleet was alive, aware, and waiting for the moment when the world above would be ready to understand its true power. The sea was calm, too calm. The morning sky stretched wide and silent, yet Alex felt a strange weight in the air. Today was different. The signals from the deep had stopped overnight. For the first time since the discovery, the sonar was silent. The fleet, which had always pulsed like a living heart beneath the waves, had gone still. Maya stood beside him, eyes fixed on the horizon. "It's waiting," she said softly. "For what?" Alex asked. "For us," she replied. They prepared the submersible for one last dive. The silence of the deep felt heavier than ever as they descended into the dark water. The sonar flickered weakly, like a heartbeat fading away. Alex and Maya exchanged uneasy glances. The ocean pressed in around them, thick and endless. For a long moment there was nothing. No lights, no sounds, no movement. Then suddenly faint glows began to appear below them. The fleet was awakening again. The massive ships slowly emerged from the darkness, their lights dim but steady. The smaller vessels hovered nearby, forming a vast circle. But something had changed. The movement was slower, more deliberate, as if the fleet was preparing for something final. Alex leaned closer to the window, his breath fogging the glass. "It feels like a farewell," he whispered. Maya adjusted the sonar. The signals returned, softer now, forming steady rhythmic pulses. They weren't random. They were forming words, or at least patterns that resembled a message. "It's communicating," she said. But this time, it's saying goodbye. The thought sent a chill down Alex's spine. The fleet had shown them its strength, its intelligence, and its purpose. Now it seemed ready to disappear again, back into the deep where no one could find it. The largest ship began to glow brighter, illuminating the entire fleet. Its surface shimmered with golden light, the symbols on its hull shifting and moving like living energy. The smaller ships moved in perfect harmony, circling it. The entire scene felt almost sacred, like a ritual. Alex realized that the fleet was not just a collection of ancient ships. It was something far beyond human understanding, something that had waited centuries to reveal its message. The vibrations grew stronger, and the water around them shimmered. The sonar displayed complex waves that pulsed outward from the largest ship, spreading through the entire fleet. Maya's voice trembled. "It's sending something." "A final signal." Alex nodded, heart pounding. "To who?" he whispered. The question hung in the water, unanswered. Suddenly, the submersible's systems flickered. Lights dimmed, instruments crackled with static. The fleet's energy was powerful, overwhelming. Alex struggled to maintain control. "It's too much," Maya shouted. The glowing light outside grew blinding, surrounding them in golden brilliance. And then, silence. When the light faded, the fleet was gone. The sonar was blank. The ocean was empty. Alex blinked, heart racing, staring into the black water where moments ago thousands of ships had glowed. "Where did they go?" Maya whispered. Alex shook his head slowly. "They didn't leave," he said softly. "They went back to sleep." They ascended in silence. The surface broke above them, sunlight spilling across the waves. It felt unreal after the brilliance below. Neither spoke as they returned to the docks, each lost in thought. That night, Alex stood by the sea, the wind cool on his face. The horizon stretched endlessly, calm and dark. Somewhere below, the hidden fleet rested again, silent but alive, waiting for the right moment to awaken once more. He thought about the golden lights, the movements, the signals that had felt almost human. Maybe the fleet was more than a machine. Maybe it carried memories of people, of civilizations long gone, preserved in metal and motion. The ocean had kept those memories safe, far from the eyes of the surface world. Maya joined him quietly. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" she asked. Alex smiled faintly. "No," he said. "And maybe that's a good thing." The waves lapped gently at the shore, carrying whispers from the deep. The sonar had gone silent, but Alex knew the truth. The fleet was still there, watching, waiting, dreaming beneath the ocean. The stars reflected off the water like fragments of the ships they had seen. The sea was at peace again, but it carried within it a secret no one else would ever know. Alex took a deep breath, his heart filled with both fear and wonder. The fleet had chosen them to witness its world, and now, that world had vanished back into the depths. But sometimes, on quiet nights, when the tide was low and the air was still, Alex could swear he heard it again, a faint mechanical hum from beneath the waves, like the distant heartbeat of a giant sleeping beneath the ocean.